Good afternoon. According to Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton and the President Barack Obama, the number one problem facing us is global warming. So what does the Torah say about global warming? The Torah tells us in many places that in the future, God's light will shine forth and the world will become warmer, not colder. And doesn't God know that the ice caps are going to melt? I guess God doesn't care about the ice caps. If God doesn't care about the ice caps, so why should you care about the ice caps? It says clearly in the Talmud, and it's studied and it's clearly stated from the words of the prophets, the world will grow considerably warmer. The wicked will be judged by it. The righteous shall be enlivened by it. In other words, global warming is good for the righteous and bad for the wicked. That's what it says in the Talmud. So if it's good for the righteous, just be righteous. Now we have in a state called California a movement that has gone not too far yet, because they haven't gotten to the point where there will be a tax on fat people. That's why I don't think I can ever move to California, because one day they're going to tax me because I weigh about 40 pounds or 50 pounds more than the average guy my height, maybe 60 pounds more. Can't imagine what the tax bill is going to be for that. But they now have a program to install monitors, to install tubes into the rear end of the dairy cows, because dairy cows produce, God forbid, methane, which can be used as a gas, as a fuel, but the animals produce methane because they can't burp, they can only go, and that's a problem. It's a real problem for the environment. And so they got to put plugs and tubes and readers for the amounts of methane that's going into the environment, because they want to reduce the amount of methane. So you have to reduce the number of cows. You reduce the number of cows, you reduce the amount of milk. That means there's going to be less milk for children. Oh, that's okay. Children shouldn't be drinking cow's milk anyway. I don't agree with that. I think people should be given the choice to drink whatever they want to drink, especially since milk has been proven to be very nutritious and has helped build healthy lives in this country. The fact that there are other things that are just as good, it's emerging. That's what happens when you have competition. Competition creates new products. You can have soy milk that's got as much vitamin D and calcium as regular milk. That's okay. It's only 3-4 times as expensive, but that's okay. But let's get back to what it says in the Talmud. The Talmud says, the righteous shall be enlivened by the warmth, the wicked shall be burned to a crisp by the warmth. So everything has to be taken in context. What it means is that when a person is righteous, they learn to get along, they learn to deal with uncomfortable situations and make the uncomfortable situation better. People who are wicked want to get rid of the uncomfortable situation. They want to deal with uncomfortable situations. So they'll move to a warmer climate, but the warmer climate's going to have a lot of people coming to it. So you got to get rid of the people. How do you get rid of the people? You tax them to death. You go ahead and make it impossible for them to live. You tax their dairy farms. You tax the agriculture. You tax the industries that employs these people. And that's how you get rid of them. This is not just a byproduct of policy. This is the policy itself. The intention of the policy is to reduce the number of people to certain areas so that the rich and the famous can enjoy it more. That's the real reason why it's there. But this is why it says the wicked will fry or will not enjoy it, because people will learn how to deal with global warming. They will learn how to deal with less arable land. They will make more food in smaller spaces. They will be able to harvest enormous amounts of fish from fish farms. So they won't need to go ahead and all over the world and deplete the fish that are out there in the ocean, because they can create fish farms with a lot more fish to them, with a lot healthier fish. And this is what's going to happen. People have innovation, and they are able to deal with adverse situations. And just as there were people who was doomsday sayers, that I remember President Jiminy Cricket, I mean Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter saying that there's just a small amount of oil left. We're going to deplete the oil soon. We just have to face up to it. We're going to have to live with less. What has happened since Jimmy Carter was president? What has happened is there's about 5 or 6 times as much oil reserves discovered now than before. And by the time they get depleted, we will have incredible industries of renewable energy. Right now, they're not competitive. They really shouldn't be state supported, but they should become competitive. You go ahead and you create competition. You create competition for the American dollar. You will eventually get yourself a solar panel that will be efficient and cost effective, and therefore people will buy it. Will buy it for their homes. You can't legislate efficiency. Efficiency is something that has to sell itself, not imposed by some pointy-headed liberal in some university. By the way, there's an old saying, you got to practice what you preach. And that is the first thing that a Jewish child learns when he says a mimer, when he learns for his bar mitzvah among the Chabad Hasidim, that God practices what he preaches. God tells you to put on tefillin. God's got his own tefillin. He puts them on every day. John Kerry and Al Gore, champions of the environment. Find out how many SUVs they own. Find out how many gas-guzzling planes they own. Find out how inefficient they live in their large mansions. Why should you listen to them if they are champions of the environment and they want people to drive their bikes to work? Let them drive their bikes to work. Let them reduce the size of their homes. Let them put up solar paneling that cost an arm and a leg on these 10,000 and 20,000 behemoths that they live in, square feet behemoths. You think they're going to do it? Of course they're not going to do it. But before you champion a particular cause, live like that. You want people to live in crowded areas? Move to Harlem. Don't move your office to Harlem and have a house in Chappaqua, which is a suburb far out in upstate New York. Live among the peasants and the peons. You don't want to because you're hot stuff. Okay, I understand that. But then you can't preach that. You have to practice what you preach. God does. At any rate, global warming, whether it's true or not, is irrelevant because the Torah predicts there's going to be global warming. And it's not going to be terrible. You know why? Because righteous people will enjoy it. Only the wicked will suffer. The reason righteous people will enjoy it is because righteous people will use their innovation to create a better environment despite the global warming. And by the way, Global warming existed long before, according to scientists, long before mankind was on the earth, long before the Ice Age. The North Pole area was like a tropical area. Only after certain things that happened in the world, I know exactly what happened, whether it was a volcano or it was an asteroid that hit us, blocked out the sun, it caused global freezing, and we got an ice age. But long before mankind came along and polluted us, the atmosphere with its factories, the world was filled with warmth, and the poles were warm, and had lots of animals and lots of fauna, flora rather, lots of trees and lots of ferns and lots of grasses and lots of good stuff. And so, my response to global warming fear is, don't be afraid. Whatever will happen, we will find a way to deal with it. Because when the sun comes out and it gets hot, the righteous will enjoy it because they'll find a way to make it cool. Sei gebencht.